welcome back. I'm actually in the shed, would you believe it? I actually tidied it so I can sit in here and move around now. It was getting pretty bad. But anyway, it's the end of March, which means it's time for a new allotment tour. But this tour actually marks a little bit of a milestone, because it was this time last year that I actually started doing my allotment tour videos. So it's 1 year old this month. Well, that was a bit of rubbish. Why didn't it work? And it's going to be great because it means that I can actually look back on the previous year, see how my allotment's changed and see how the seasons have affected what's growing. And it's going to be especially interesting because it feels like we've had a really mild winter and an early spring. The weather this month's been really changeable. It feels like the first half of the month was really wet, really windy. We had lots of stormy weather, and for the last week or so it's been really mild, really warm, and it was about 15 degrees one day, and I think in a couple of days time it's also going to get to that temperature again, which is lovely because it feels like spring is actually here now, and the blossom is blooming, buds are swelling. But there are a few things that seem a little bit odd for this time of year, and I'll show you some of those as we go around the allotment shortly. Apart from sowing seeds and getting my plot and polytunnel ready, I've been really busy at college, where I go once a week. It's a part-time course in horticulture at Derby, and I've been helping to prepare features for the show garden that's going to be at BBC Gardeners World Live, and that's a big show that takes place in Birmingham around July, and I've been helping to build this mosaic path with cobblestones, and just the other week we actually finished it and we moved all the pieces together and put them together to see how it looks, and I'm just really excited to see it at the show with it all planted up. It's going to be the biggest show garden there, and I'm going to be able to help install it, hopefully. So I can't wait for that. It's just really, really fun to actually work with my fellow students on something that's going to be so awesome. Well, I've actually come here after work today, so we don't have too much time before the sunset. So let's go outside and have a little look around the plot in March. Let's see what the plot looks like at the end of March. It's looking a lot more colourful than it did. You can see I've got some daffodils over there at the back. Let's have a look down this border. All the leaves are coming out. This will soon be in flower. Lovely white pretty flowers. Times well with the bluebells below that also come out at the same time. And the forsythia, huge burst of yellow. Could do with a bit of a prune, and forsythias are best pruned straight after they have flowered, so I might give this a bit more shape once it's finished doing its thing. But really pretty yellow flowers, and I've actually made a little vase of flowers at home using this and some of my daffodils, and it's in my bathroom, and it just looks really cheerful, and it's a great way to start your morning with some nice freshly cut colourful flowers. Below the forsythia I still have this big clump of Oxide Daisy, which I'm meant to divide because it's too tall and it's right at the front of the border, so I'm going to move some to the wildlife area at some point. In the same border I've also got some new daffodils that are now in bloom, and these are Cheerfulness, and they're one of my favourite daffodils, I think, because they just smell so divine, and I love the double bloom with the outer layer of petals and then those in the centre there. But if you cut some of these and take them home, the smell just fills the room, and it's such a gorgeous smell. My plum tree is just about to bloom. All the buds are swelling and the blossom will soon be out. And this is my Victoria plum, and it does have a problem with sawfly every year, and I'm thinking this year I might actually use a pheromone trap for the first time. and that's an organic way of treating sawfly and preventing the maggot from going into your plums. So I'd love to know if you've actually tried this and if it was successful or not. Below the plum tree is actually a new project that I've been working on. Well, it only took me about 10 minutes and it was a spur of the moment thing. So essentially all I've done is grouped all of my terracotta pots together underneath my plum tree. Mainly because, well, it started out with my magnolia because I decided I wanted to see that as soon as I came through the door on my allotment, because I just love the gorgeous flowers that have only just opened, and the pinkish tinge to the white flower and the star shape, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I've also got some pots with some tulips in that survived my attack on my tulips. I'll tell you more about that a bit later. Some of the pots are still empty, so I'll have to plant something in them soon. But I've also done a bit of shopping this month, and when I was at college the other evening, they have like a little plant stand there, which is all plants that they've divided from the gardens. And I bought myself a couple of these Fritillaria milliangris, and these are the snake's head Fritillaria. I can't even say it. But I've been wanting some of these for quite some time, and I really love the pattern on the flowers, and they really do look like snake's heads before they open up. And so I'm going to put a few of those into a pot. Another plant that I've actually bought is one that arrived in the post. I completely forgot I ordered it, and they don't dispatch it for a few months, but it's called the polar berry, and it's like a blackberry but it's white, and it's not something I've tried before, but I know that my white strawberries, the pine berries, they do really well, and because they're a white colour, the birds don't actually eat them because they think that they're unripe. So I just thought I'd give this a try. I don't know if it'll bear fruit this year or not. I can't see any buds at the moment, but it's still quite early anyway. So yeah, that's just a new fruit that I'll be trying this year. So I just need to get some wood chip to go down this path, and I just really neaten it out and help stop the weeds from coming through as well. The strawberry beds don't look too different really. That patch over there I still really haven't tidied. I pulled a few weeds out, but I've not done that yet. Oopsie. The blackcurrant is showing signs of life, and also the garlic underneath it, which I planted a bit randomly, is also looking great. On the corner of this garlic I've got a new pot, and I have one on the opposite side as well, and I actually bought these second hand from a lady on Gumtree. If you're not in the UK and you're not familiar with what Gumtree is, it's basically like your local shopping forum for your area, a bit like Craigslist if you're familiar with that. And I got two for £6, and these are strawberry planters. I think it's ceramic, and I've actually bought them to put my pineberry plants in. I actually have 4 pineberry plants that I bought, but these are the runners that have come off the plant from last year. So my plan is to put these into the strawberry planters so that they're separate to my strawberries. The pots actually came with some strawberries in them, but I don't really need them, so I might find somebody who might like them instead. Now this one does have a bit of a breakage. I do have all the pieces though, so I'm hoping I can just find some glue for this kind of thing and just glue it back together again. Failing that, I can just use the plants to cover it up. And over at the bottom end of my allotment, there's a lovely robin in the apple tree singing his heart out. So this plant here is quite a late rhubarb, and so is this one, but behind it is my Timperley, I think that's what it's called, or Temperley, which is an early variety. So I planted this plant, it was last year? No, the year before last. And when you're planting rhubarb, You mustn't pick it in its first year of growth. And wait, it's quite a horrible wait. But this year I can actually pick some of these stems. And they're already about 8 or 9 inches long. So they're about ready for picking soon. I can't wait to be the first crop of the year. Now, further down the path, I spotted this yesterday and I was completely surprised. This is my autumn fruiting raspberry. It's obviously a cane that I forgot to prune because all the others are down to the ground. But look, it's got buds. And those flowers are going to form autumn fruiting raspberries in the middle of spring. Is that normal? Has that happened to anybody else before? It's so confused. And so am I. Another surprise is my tulips. I've got a couple out already. And I'm sure last year they weren't here this early. These are part of my flag tulips. They're probably from the pack that I planted a couple of years ago, not the ones I planted last year, because unfortunately I think they've all been eaten. I'm not going to have many tulips this year and I'm really sad about that. My alliums are growing really well. They're a bit in the wrong place really, they're right next to my stepping stone path, so this is going to be about 1.5 meters tall soon. So it might be in the way just a little bit, but I've done quite a bit of weeding down here in this last few days. Lots of nettles were here, so I can always turn that into a tea, but I've left some down there in the wildlife area. Outside of the shed I've had a bit of a rearrange, so this pot I've now put on my little step. I'm going to fill those terracotta pots soon, but on the right hand side I'm not sure what to put there and whether or not to keep that grey planter. It might be a bit in the way, so I'm thinking I might make a teepee with sweet peas and have a climber up there. It also needs a good repaint. Look at all that white around the edge of the door. The compost bin, I actually had a good mix of this the other day and I forked it all through and added lots of grass clippings from work, and that's because my compost mix was looking quite brown and woody and I thought it needs some green, and the nitrogen that's in the grass clippings will help kickstart the composting. It'll heat it up and hopefully spur it on to start composting again. My compost bin, well, it's falling down and it's not very well insulated, and this whole area needs a little bit of reorganising, and as you know, I really want to rebuild my composting bays in the coming months. I've still got a lot of pots on this side to sort out. There's a lot of weeds in there. Let's go around to the back, see what's going on. Oh, but first, we had a bit of a disaster. Now, you might remember that this is my carrot bed, but I did actually plant loads of tulip bulbs in here around the autumn time, and I've been eagerly anticipating their arrival. They'll be blooming any time now, but there was a massacre, and even though I covered them, a rat or a squirrel got in and devoured the lot, about 60 bulbs. Well, I'm still not over it, but you know what, trying to look on the good side, the flip side of this, I've got an empty growing space here that's pretty much ready. Just need to take all of these decapitated tulips, oh it's so sad, out, and you know what, I could get an early crop of carrots, I could sow some beetroot, some rocket, something like radish, they're really quick growing, so I can get an early crop before my main sowings of carrots goes in. Before I sow my carrots this year, I'm actually thinking of treating my soil for the carrot fly larvae that might still have overwintered in the soil. So I'll be using a special product to help get rid of that, but I'll tell you more about that as the time comes. So yeah, I'm not going to have very many tulips this year. I think a few did survive, ones that I planted under the apple tree and in the border there that I planted previous years ago. But yeah, I was looking forward to having about 120 odd flowers. It's not going to happen. That corner of my allotment, is looking a lot more tidy since I moved all of the little plants that were down here. My little Peak District area with a miniature chair. I'm not sure if that blue spruce is going to stay there, but I do like the contrast between it and the dark ivy behind it. Oh, and I did plant the heather with the hellebores for that green and purple mix. Oh, I just love it. So turning around, here's the plot, and on the bed in front of me I've actually chopped up all of the green manure that was growing here. And because I'm going to go no dig, I'm actually planning to cover it with some manure or compost rather than forking it into the soil. Yeah, so I've still got this corner of the green manure to dig in. Let's go have a look, see what's going on in the polytunnel. Okay, into the polytunnel. What time is it? Oh god, it's going to be dark soon. Well, not a lot's changed since my last video, but the lettuce has grown really well, and the sweet peas over here, they're still doing really well. They could probably do with pinching out soon, but I might wait a little while. I sowed some more flowers the other day. Got some cornflowers, poached egg flower, and that one. Of the seeds that I sowed in my last video, we can see some Moulin Rouge beetroot have come up. I've got 2 rows of those, and that's about it so far. Oh, I can just spot here, you're not going to be able to see it there, a little Welsh onion. So they're just germinating now. Looks like I've just got some pickling onions germinating there, and also some of the shallots. There's their brune shallots behind. They're just coming out the surface now as well. The Baldor beetroot, these are a yellow beetroot. They're looking pretty good. I can probably plant them out sometime soon, especially if I'm going to cover them with fleece. The sweet peas and the grape punnets are actually looking really healthy. I'm really hoping to have a really good year for sweet peas this year. And on the shallot sets, the foliage is just starting to poke through on some of those. And the Bolt Hardy beetroot is also looking good. And that's about it for the seedlings in the polytunnel so far. So this is how my plot is looking at the end of March. I just really hope we don't get any more cold weather like we did last year when the beats from the east came and dumped all that snow right at the end of March going into April. That's it for another tour. Next month is going to be so full on. I'm going to be sowing loads more seeds. The polytunnel is probably going to get quite full, and I've been using Zoran's shed as an extra place for my seed sowing because I think it's going to be a bit warmer in there. I'll show you more of his allotment soon. I haven't done too much work on there just yet, but I'll hopefully do a separate video. I'd love to know how your seed sowing is going so far. What have you been doing this month? How's the weather been treating you? So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.